Today on the Communiverse, a mass shooting shakes up New York City. But does the coverage reveal more about the media bias than crime? Why your dog's belly fat might be your fault? Can healthy habits really delay dementia? Is President AOC a real contender in 2028? And the Epstein file, it won't die. Trump and Rogan are adding fuel to the fire. All that and more today on the Communiverse. Hi and welcome. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm TJ Walker. This is your daily dive into the top news stories related to culture, business, and technology. We're going to dive right in. Sad news coming out of New York City. A gunman armed with an AR-15 style rifle opened fire Monday evening at 345 Park Avenue in Midtown Manhattan, a place I've walked by hundreds of times, killing 4 people, including New York City police detective Diderot Islam, and critically injuring a 5th before the gunman killed himself. 3 victims were shot in the lobby and a 4th on the 33rd floor. The shooter, Shane Tamura, traveled from Las Vegas to New York and had documented mental health history. Chaos unfolded during the rush hour as office workers fled in terror. The building houses major tenants like Blackstone, the NFL, and KPMG. So obviously this is a huge tragedy. It's a tragedy anytime someone dies. It's a tragedy anytime someone shoots and kills multiple people. But let's ask ourselves for a moment from a pure communication standpoint, why am I talking about it? Why are you talking about it now? Given the fact that there are 120 people shot every single day in the United States, forget worldwide, just in the United States. And it's very rare that any of them make headlines. And yet we're all hearing about it. This was the lead story on the New York Times website and its newspaper. And the New York Times, while it's laughed at as traditional old media, still dominates news coverage in every other place in the country, every other media outlet. Believe me, the editors, the producers of talk shows, of online publications, they're all looking at the New York Times front page every day. So it has tremendous impact. Now, let's look at the facts. New York City violent crime is way down since the 1990s. There were 390 homicides in 2024. To be clear, that's 390 too many people who were killed. But there were 2,200 homicides in 1990. So that's a trend way, way, way down. And yet most people think it's opposite. Because here is what happened. While at the same time, crime has gone down in big cities like New York City, crime news coverage has gone up, up, up. Plus the perception is that crime has never been higher. Now, per capita, I'm going to say something, and it's simply not going to compute to a lot of you. Per capita, rural America has higher gun homicides than New York City. That's right. The good people of rural Iowa and rural Alabama and Mississippi who like to laugh at, oh, the big city slickers in New York City, it's dangerous, I would never go there, are actually living in a more dangerous community in terms of their own chances of getting shot to death. So a few more details. The shooter was white, mentally ill, legally armed, and yet the media never frames this as, oh, here we go again, another white male. Those white males really are dangerous. We see a white male murder a bunch of people, and let's be clear, the vast majority of mass murderers in America are people who look like me, although a little younger. It's white men. And yet most people don't fear a white man walking by them on the street. It is biased. We are all racially, culturally biased in many ways. And unfortunately, this is one of these situations where people just don't see it. They can see mass murder after mass murder after mass murder as a white male, like, oh, no problem here. It has nothing to do with his race or ethnicity. And yet a minority steals a piece of candy, and it's there you go again. We got to lock up all these minorities. They're out of control. The immigrants are out of control. New York City is out of control. So what else is going on here? A part of it is the people who walk by this murder on a daily basis are people who are the editors at CNN, the producers at CNN, NBC, and CBS, and ABC. All of these TV networks are based just a few blocks, and MSNBC and Fox. They're all based a few blocks from where this murder happened. So, of course, it's big news to them. If someone gets shot in your post office in rural Iowa, that's what everyone in rural Iowa is going to talk about, even though it won't be on TV news because there is no TV news there if it's a really small town. So part of it is this availability bias where the producers, the news editors, the writers who are walking by and see it, that's the thing that's most available to them, and they put it on the news. There are also very, very strong political factors involved here because only a few blocks away from this gruesome situation, from this crime scene, is none other than the New York Post and Fox News Channel. Well, the owners there have an extraordinarily strong bias in favor of painting the picture that big cities are overrun with crime. These crazy liberal Democrats just like to promote crime. They like to give out passports and citizenship and free goodies and welfare to criminals coming over here. And that's the political narrative that helps conservative forces in America. So that's why you see someone like Rupert Murdoch and his New York Post and the Fox News Channel really hyping a story when there's crime in New York City because it serves political interest. It conforms to biases that red states already have, that MAGA supporters already have, that we in our towns, our small towns, our white communities, we're safe and civilized. It's those bad old inner cities with all their minorities and all their immigrants run by Democrats. They're out of control and crime is sky high. And I would never, ever go there because it's too dangerous for me and my family. That is the implicit message coming out by some very cynical media operators in New York City. Now, I don't mean to suggest it doesn't deserve some news coverage. But if you want to be an intelligent person, a successful person, you have to be aware of your own biases and how other people's biases are having an impact on your life and your perception of reality. So if you want to really be on top of things, on top of reality, if, for example, you wanted a safe vacation and you wanted to reduce your family's chances of getting killed or injured severely, and you had a choice between going to, I don't know, state I'm in now, or Orlando, Florida, or Miami, versus, or let's just say Anniston, Alabama, where I used to live, or going to New York City, you would actually be safer, statistically speaking, taking a trip to New York City, even though it doesn't feel like. And yes, that applies to going on the subways, which again, people like to think is somehow dangerous. And yet it's so much safer than being in a car ride because everyone forgets the fact that because it's so commonplace, 1.2 million people a year die worldwide in car crashes. The people who die in train rides is statistically insignificant compared to that. Hello, I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me. This is the Communiverse. This is where we look at the top stories of the day in business, technology, and culture and analyze it through the lens of communication skills and personal development skills, all with the goal of making you more successful. Okay, thanks so much for joining me. Let's go on to the next story. Issue 2 today. Somewhat bizarre, but not completely. Why your dog is fat, and it's not just the treats. More than half of American dogs are overweight. Now, on the one hand, this is astounding. On the other hand, 70% of Americans are overweight or obese. So if we're just throwing down garbage cans full of sugar and processed fat and processed carbohydrates all day long, and we think, well, that's the way to be happy. Well, in some sense, there's no big surprise as to why our dogs are so fat. According to a new study, pet owners are largely to blame, but not always in the way you think. A major study from the Dog Aging Project shows that certain breeds, especially Labrador and Golden Retrievers, are genetically hardwired to be food obsessed. These dogs score significantly higher on food motivation tests, making them more likely to beg, scavenge, and overeat. Yet nearly 1 in 4 owners underestimates their dog's weight. Sound familiar? We kind of underestimate our own weight, our own level of obesity too. And they even ignore the warnings from their vets. Most only begin portion control or exercise routines after weight gain sets in. Urban dogs and multi-dog households also contribute to the obesity epidemic. The result? A generation of well-loved but overfed dogs facing diabetes, joint problems, and shorter lives. Now, this is especially, I'll just use the word sad without sounding more judgmental. In a time when there are people starving to death in the world, not just talking about the Middle East, but a lot of other countries. And in fact, in the United States, there are some people who experience food shortages. When there's so much hunger in the world, to see us Americans stuffing our faces so much with garbage food, with garbage processed carbohydrates and sugar and fat, so that 70% of us are either obese, overweight, both, diabetic or pre-diabetic. And it's now filtered down to other members of the household, including our dogs. It really makes you question, have we lost our minds? Now, I grew up with a dog. I loved my dog. And this was back in the day in the 60s and 70s where you fed your dog table scraps. And I understand that that's considered crazy today. I don't have a dog at the moment, although there's a good chance my family and I will be getting a dog in the next few months. And I understand now you've got to give them dog food that is specific to them and their nutritional needs. But at some point, there got to be limits. At some point, we as Americans in particular, but this is happening around the rest of the world, have to realize you cannot equate more food with more love. Yes, you love your dog. I get it. But there has to be a way of showing love to your dog rather than another treat, rather than another bowl, rather than giving them your dessert. There has to be another way. How about this? How about taking your dog for a walk, an extra walk? You already walk your dog once a day. How about another walk? It's good for both of you. Maybe that will do something to reduce the dog's obesity, extend its life, reduce our obesity. And if you're watching this for the first time, you may be saying, who is this TJ holier than thou? Look, I've been very overweight. I topped the scales about 8 years ago at 118 pounds, which if it didn't make me technically obese, I was right there on the cusp. How did I lose weight? Was it Ozempic? No. It's called eating real food, exercising every day, and trying to not bring processed food into the house. There's no great magic to it. There's no great magic for your dog. If your dog is obese, you're feeding it too much food. You're giving it too much. Interestingly, that it's extraordinarily rare for any animal in the wild. An animal that actually lives in the wild and has to go get its own food, a lion, a tiger, a bear. It's actually rare for any of those animals to be obese. I understand bears get bigger. They're preparing for the winter hibernation. But in general, when you look at animals in their natural state, they don't eat to the point of excess because they're eating unprocessed food. That's the answer, not just to dogs, but to human beings as well. What are your thoughts? I'd love to hear from you. If you're watching this, you can go ahead and leave comments. And sometimes I do miss the comments. I see Raj has joined us today. Raj says, hey, thanks so much for your courses on Udemy. Raj, I'm really glad you've joined us today. So thanks for doing that. And Raj, tell me, what courses are you currently enrolled in on the Udemy platform? And hey, are you there, TJ? Is it really live? Yes, it's really live. Now, we do put this video on demand on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and a handful of other places. And very soon, it's going to live on in audio podcast form, Spotify, iTunes, all major platforms. But I am doing the first version of the show live for you. So, Raj, tell me what course you're in, what you're studying now, where you're trying to make the most improvement in skills to better your own life, whether it's your personal life, your professional life, your career, whatever it is you're doing. I'd love to know. And let me know if I can, in fact, help you in any way. We have a lot more fun to come up today, a lot more stories, a lot more insights. But first, we do have to pay a few bills around here. I'll be back after these commercial messages.
Imagine having a communication coach who never sleeps. Meet your new secret weapon, the TJ Walker AI clone. Go to tjwalker.ai and start getting custom coaching 24/7. No scheduling, no hourly fees. I've trained presidents, prime ministers, and Fortune 500 CEOs. But the same exact communication I've delivered to world leaders is now available to you online, anytime at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Whether you're speaking on camera, pitching a client, or handling a crisis, you need these tools. These aren't fluffy motivational videos. They're practical, battle-tested techniques to help you speak clearly, competently, and persuasively. Go to MediaTrainingWorldwide.com and take your communication to the next level. Got feedback or a question for me? I actually read them, and if you send one, I'll send you a free mini course as a thank you. Just head to tjwalker.com/feedback. Ever wish you could just ask me your question live? Now you can. Every week I go live with members only. On YouTube, it's called TJ Live. I review pitches, fix presentations, and answer your questions on the spot. It's interactive, personal, and hands-on. If you want real-time coaching in a small group setting, go to tjwalker.com/live and become a member. This isn't passive content. It's a two-way conversation. Want to make sure we stay connected even if YouTube deletes me again? Join my newsletter at substack.com/@TJWalkerSuccess. It's free, fast, and packed with exclusive insights.
We are back, and lots more stories and fun to come. Some good stories, some not. But regardless, what I try to do in this course is help you learn from it. It's so easy to watch news, read news, consume news, and just doom scroll and get depressed and think, oh, wow, the world's going to hell in a handbasket. It's not that all news is good, but what I am trying to do is to teach the underlying messages to help you become a better person, a healthier person, a stronger communicator, to have stronger personal development habits so you can be successful and flourish in every aspect of life. So that's what's different about this show. Let's hop right into issue 3. Can a healthy lifestyle delay dementia? A new 2-year study involving 2,111 older Americans found that healthy lifestyle habits, including regular exercise, nutritious eating, social interaction, and cognitive training, can modestly improve brain function in people at risk for dementia. Participants at both structured and self-guided programs showed cognitive gains, but the intensive group improved slightly more. Experts cautioned, however, that the difference was small and may not justify high cost, high effort interventions. While the study didn't prove these habits prevent Alzheimer's, they likely help reduce vascular related brain decline. The findings highlight the potential for lifestyle changes to slow cognitive aging, especially for at risk individuals. The bigger question remains, how much support, structure, and accountability do people really need to make brain healthy habits stick? Okay, on the one hand, you can say, all right, DJ, what's really new here? We already knew this. We've heard this before. Well, here's the problem. You can hear about some study once a month or once every 6 weeks or read somewhere about, oh, yeah, I should eat healthier. I should exercise more. I should be involved socially. You can hear it intellectually, receive that message, but on a daily basis, you are inundated with text, emails, notifications saying, hey, watch another video, watch another movie, watch another TikTok. Sit back passively and let your body rot, let your brain rot. That's unfortunately the message we all receive thousands and thousands of times a day. And I realize you can make the case, TJ, you're a hypocrite. You're a part of it. You're asking me to sit here and watch you on video now. Okay. Guilty, but I am trying to motivate you with messages that can help you not end up like this with dementia, or at least give yourself a few more good years. I've certainly seen studies, and I'm sure you have too, that they have cut open the brains of active, healthy, thriving, successful 95-year-olds who are still active in the community, active in their professions, and they see that they had all the markings of dementia and Alzheimer's too, but they didn't show any symptoms. One of the biggest reasons is they never retired. Now, I've talked about this before on the show and other videos and in courses. I'll talk about it again. But I do believe one of the worst decisions most people ever make in their lives, something that dramatically shortens the number of years they're alive, more important, shortens the quality of the years they're alive, is to simply retire with no plans. Now, if you were a banker and you worked 100 hours a week as an investment banker and you're tired of it and you have plenty of money, I've got no problem with you retiring from that job. But then use your skills to help finance nonprofits in your community. Do something, I beg you, other than saying, well, I'm just going to take it easy now, because your day will be taken up by this and bigger screens around you, because the whole world wants to suck you dry. They want to suck out your eyeballs, your ears, your attention to make money off of you. And if you're not careful, it will happen. You can retire your first day of retirement, whether you're 62, 65, or 78, and say, isn't this great? I can relax. Nobody to tell me what to do. I don't have to go put a tie on or a suit on or shave or show up somewhere. Isn't it great? Well, it is for about a week. And then you realize, I'm bored. I got nothing to do. My kids and family have said they're busy. What do I do now? So what most people do, unfortunately, is fill their time doing nothing. A lot of sitting and a lot of screen time. And that, a lot of researchers show, will increase the rate at which Alzheimer's, dementia, other mental problems will take over your brain and destroy your life. You've got to keep moving. Now, I'm 62. I certainly hope and anticipate I will be doing exactly what I'm doing right now, and I mean this minute right now, creating shows for you when I'm 92. Now, I could get run over by a bus tomorrow. I could suffer other health problems, but I can tell you, just because financially I have the wherewithal to not do this and to take it easy, I don't want to. In part, I want to help you. I enjoy this. In part, because I think it's going to dramatically increase the likelihood that I live a longer life and have a longer health span. So yes, the lifestyle is crucial. There's new evidence that comes out every day. And in some ways you can say, okay, It's the same old evidence. It's not really new, but it does bear repeating because there is power in repetition. You do need exercise. You've heard that before. I'm not delivering you something of earth-shattering importance, but you need it because every single day you're given a reminder note to sit down and watch this great football game or this great movie or this great World Cup or this great tennis match or this great pickleball match. We are given constant visual, oral reminders, every ad, to spend more time doing less, because that's how corporations make money from you. And hey, I'm not anti-corporation. I'm not an anti-capitalist. I am a capitalist. So I'm a part of that too. I want you watching this. Now, maybe you're going for a walk while you're watching this or listening to this in a podcast format, but we're all a part of this. Life is complicated. There are conflicts of interest. I have a conflict of interest. You have a conflict of interest. But all of us have an interest in living the longest healthy lifespan possible. No one wants to have their last 30 years of life in a vegetable status or in bed. I understand that. But all of us, if we are perfectly healthy, our brain is functioning, our legs, our limbs are moving, we can travel, we can do whatever we want, we can exercise, play sports, play with families, friends, children, grandchildren. All of us would like to live longer if we could live like that, right? So that's why I do spend some time when new studies like this come up and there's some new news hook to talk about it. And unfortunately, too many of us say, well, I'm looking for that magic pill. If I could just take one pill a day, that would be great. That's what I'm looking for. Unfortunately, there is no pill. We talked about that yesterday in looking at the life and lifestyle of Clint Eastwood, one of the most successful, one of the richest movie stars and directors in the world. He's still directing movies at age 95. He's still exercising every day. He's still mostly eating healthy foods, salads, unprocessed foods, lean meats. That is in part, you can say he has lucky genes, okay. But I'm pretty sure if at age 25, he said, well, I got lucky genes. I'm going to smoke cigarettes all day, drink a bottle of whiskey every day, eat burgers and fries every day, he would not be where he is today. He would be 6 feet under. Can't prove it, but certainly I think an informed, best educated guest would suggest that. So that's why I think it is important to put a spotlight on new studies that come out. It's not inevitable. And let's step back a minute and not be so gloom and doom and realize this is a good problem for humans to have. For most of human history, people were dead at age 30. You didn't have to worry about Alzheimer's because you were gonna have a broken ankle and it slowed you down, and a saber-toothed tiger can now catch you and eat you. So for most of human history, this wasn't a problem, or there would be some cycle in the feast and famine with crops where you were just going to starve to death. So if you could get to be 30, good for you. You've outdone it. And special hello to One Shot joining us. We're early in the morning. Yes, I don't know where you are. I'm on the East Coast of the United States, and it's just a little after 10 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, and I'm glad you're here with me. So that's why I think it is critically important that we all constantly stay aware of new information about health. Even when it doesn't seem completely new, it's a good reminder to do the right things, because you and I are going to be bombarded with literally thousands of reminders today to partake in horrible habits. We are going to see more than 1,000 ads for Coke, Pepsi Cola, Budweiser beer, sugary drinks, sugary foods, Twinkies, Little Debbie, garbage food, and garbage drinks, urging us to think of how good that's going to feel on your tongue and melt in your mouth. Those are messages, reminders designed to shape your behavior to, yes, make more profit for the company, but ultimately to kill you or to reduce the quality of your life. And that's what I'm trying to do here is provide a little bit of a counterpoint. That's why we're here. One Shot says, you're glad to be here, and garbage food. Yes, garbage food is the problem. As we talked about earlier, not just of human beings in the Western world, but now our dogs are, we're such gluttons. And forgive me if that's, I don't in any way mean to sound fat shaming. I'm not saying people are immoral if they are overweight or not aesthetically pleasing. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying it's a shame to shave off 10, 20, sometimes 30 years of your life because of garbage you consumed all day long. That I do think is a legitimate shame. And it's a huge, huge problem, not just in the United States. As I travel around the world, it's really affecting every area that has any kind of affluence. I know when I'm in Asia sometimes, the joke from my tour guide in China, the last time I was in China was, oh, that's KFC. We love that in China. We call it keep fat coming. And indeed, in China, mainland China, where traditionally obesity was extremely rare, you now see a lot of obese people, especially kids. And again, it's not about the aesthetics, it's about what it's doing to our lifespan, our quality of life. And it's absolutely sad. The timing is crazy, One Shot says, and wow, I agree. But your timing is great. I appreciate you being here with us today, talking, all of you joining me. We're going to take a quick commercial break and quick program, though. This is sort of a soft launch. If you're watching this now, thank you. You're kind of one of the insiders. We're not really promoting this show yet. We're in a soft launch phase. The Communiverse is going to be going sort of big time September 2nd, 2025. We'll be on every podcast platform, video platform, have a little slicker production. My studio will be built back a little more. Some of you may be looking at it saying, TJ, didn't you used to have a plant? Didn't you used to have a globe? Yes, I'm in the process of moving right now, moving from my office. My family and I are moving 40 minutes away to another part of Palm Beach in Florida. And I will be completely rebuilding a new studio there. So we're in the process of moving everything. The final move date will be this Thursday. Okay, we are going, and I appreciate those of you joining live with your comments. I do read every single comment. Thanks so much. We're going to take a quick commercial break and back with a couple more stories, political stories. This is not primarily a political show, but we do talk about top business stories, technology stories, and culture stories. And these days, politics does, in fact, touch pretty much everything.
The Communiverse has room for a few select sponsors if you're legit. No crypto, no sugary drinks, no scams, just real value. Inquire now at tjwalker.com/advertise. Imagine being the most confident person in the room, whether you're on Zoom or on stage. That's what thousands of professionals are learning to do right now through my online communication courses. At Media Training Worldwide, you can access my complete training library on demand, affordable, and actually effective. Whether you're preparing for media interviews, client presentations, or TED-style talks, I've got you covered. Check it out, MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. You'll never wing it again. Want to support the show? Skip the ads and buy me a coffee. That's buymeacoffee.com/TJ Walker. Want direct access to me live? Want to unlock bonus episodes, behind-the-scenes takes, and full access to my premium courses? Then become a member today. Just go to tjwalker.com/members and choose your preferred platform, YouTube, Patreon, whatever works for you. This isn't just another subscription. It's a full access pass to the tools, coaching, and content that can transform your communication and career. tjwalker.com/members. I'll see you inside. Want more? Grab my 5-book success library for $9.95 at tjwalker.com/books. It's the fastest way to level up your communication. For years, people have asked how they could get one-on-one coaching from me inexpensively. Well, now you can, anytime, anywhere with the TJ Walker AI clone. It's like having me in your pocket, ready to help you prep for a speech, polish a pitch, or calm your nerves before a big meeting. You talk to it, it responds like I would, based on my real-world coaching of thousands of leaders and communicators. Check it out at tjwalker.ai. It's not just smart, it's personal.
Welcome back. Is President Ocasio-Cortez actually plausible? In a provocative column published July 28, 2025 by The Hill, political consultant Douglas Schoen argues that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's political trajectory may be far more serious and plausible than skeptics assume. Her surprising vote in favor of continued U.S. funding for Israel's Iron Dome signaled a strategic shift toward the Democratic mainstream, even at the cost of alienating parts of the progressive left. Schoen points to her growing national profile, unmatched fundraising power, and strong polling in early 2028 forecasts as signs that her presidential aspirations are not just symbolic. While risks remain, including alienating her base and her relative inexperience, Ocasio-Cortez's national popularity and grassroots support makes her potentially a serious contender. So let's unpack this a little bit. Among mainstream Democratic political strategists in the United States, most, I believe, do not take Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, she's called, seriously. They think she's so far to the left, she can never appeal to middle America. She can never appeal to swing states. She can't appeal to voters who consider themselves centrist or slightly to the right of center. So it's a non-starter for her to run for president. That is the mainstream thinking. And I will confess that in the past, I have largely bought into that line of thinking. But a number of things have changed my mind. When I look at what's going on in American politics in the last decade, what I find is voters do not necessarily reward the traditional management experience of being a good governor for 2 years or two terms. They don't respect ideological consistency necessarily. What does seem to be respected is the ability to capture attention, get people angry, and get people excited about what you're doing. Now, I'm talking, of course, about the current president of the United States, Donald Trump. No one is better at mobilizing media attention, social media attention, getting people angry, telling people, here's what I want to do to make your life better. I'm not debating now whether those are good platforms or whether he's done any of them, but that is his skill as a communicator. Well, I don't think any serious person would suggest that AOC doesn't also have those same skills. She has the ability to be talked about. In fact, there are days when the Fox News channel and other conservative media outlets seem absolutely obsessed with this congresswoman. Now, they're doing so for a couple of reasons, because she does embrace the title or the label democratic socialism. Many on the right think, oh, goody gumdrops. This is great for us because it's a way for us to paint the entire Democratic Party as extremist and out of the mainstream, and therefore unvotable to most Americans. So there's a strategic reason for that. And by traditional analytics and political metrics, it does make sense. I just think we live in strange times now, very different times. Recent polling shows that AOC outpolls Chuck Schumer by double digits, believe it or not. So some want her to run for the U.S. Senate in her state of New York to defeat the current Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer, who's been in that office since 1998. And he's someone who's never lost to race. He's been in power since the 1970s, I believe, since he's about 25 years old, and never lost to race. But now she would beat him by double digits if the race were held today. She's a prolific fundraiser. She's raised $15.4 million this year, more than any other House colleague. 70% of her donations come from outside the state. Part of what she has is grassroots appeal. There are millions of people around the country who look to her as a spokesperson for their views, and they give her small donations. In the modern political environment, that's really helpful. Donald Trump showed that. Because of his fame and name ID from The Apprentice, he was able to beat 17 other Republicans when he first ran in 2016, even though they had more credentials, in many cases, a lot more money, a lot more experience. None of that mattered because of his ability to communicate and get individuals to give him small dollar amount donations. She's attracting huge crowds. In a time when people say the Democrats have absolutely no one with charisma, she has charisma galore. If by charisma you mean good communication skills. And in my own worldview, charisma is primarily about communication skills. Recently, she went to a rally in Plattsburgh, New York, which is a place I've been because it's close to the ski area. 10% of the town showed up. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of people came to hear a politician speak. Most politicians, most U.S. senators show up to a small town, and they are lucky if they can fill a Starbucks. People are not interested in hearing the typical politician showing up. Now, again, the real issue is she seen as perhaps too left of center to be palatable to voters in the mainstream? It's still possible that she is seen as too extreme. I'm not going to discount that. However, I do think so much has changed in the last decade that the Republican Party is harnessed to their favor in a way that the Democratic Party has not. Say what you will about Joe Biden, nobody would make the claim that he was a social media superstar or the most charismatic politician in the last decade. Back in the early 70s, even in the 80s, believe it or not, Joe Biden was charismatic and a great speaker. But we're going to leave that debate for another day. So what are we to think of AOC? There's something else I have to say. It's not politically correct to say it. And maybe I'm emboldened because I don't have a lot of big, gigantic sponsors who are ready to pull the plug. But I'm just going to say this. Apologies if it offends anyone. She's really good looking. She's really attractive. There aren't any heterosexual males I know of who, if you say, well, if she were your girlfriend, what would you think? I think they would say, well, that'd be pretty good. And I don't mean to be sexualizing candidates. The same can be said about male candidates. Bill Clinton, Ronald Reagan. There were a lot of women who saw them and said, you know what, these are attractive men. And if this were my spouse or my father, I would be proud to be seen with them. I think the same thing is working with AOC. There are a lot of women who see her and they say, well, she's not frumpy and dumpy like other candidates of both parties. She's someone aspirational. And I am not saying that we should make our most serious political judgments based on how somebody looks. Although there is a current occupant in the White House who seems to make that his number one criteria when selecting people like his defense secretary, whether they have good hair. But pushing that aside for a moment, in terms of pure political calculus as to the strengths AOC brings to a potential presidential run, I do not think you can discount the fact, it's not going to be talked about much, but it's this elephant in the room, is the fact that she is physically very, very attractive. There's no other way of putting this delicately. There's also the factor in her favor. She's young. If it's one thing, I think a lot of people across the political spectrum would agree, no matter what party you're in, whether it's Biden, seeing too much Biden, too much Trump, too much Clinton, you know what they all have in common? They were all born in 1946. They're all really old. Now, one of them is still in power. But I think regardless of what happens in the next election, if there is a next election, a lot of voters are going to be saying, okay, not only do we not want anyone born in 1946 or the 1940s, we don't even want a baby boomer. And I say that I'm a baby boomer, okay? But I think we're at the point where an awful lot of people of both parties are saying, let's get someone youthful, someone energetic. And by 2028, if in fact we have a new election then, when one is scheduled, AOC would still be under the age of 40. Now, she would be older than 35, so there's no constitutional reason why she couldn't run. But she would still, even though she's been on the national scene for a while, since her late 20s, she would still be very, very young. And I think that's significant. Other important details coming out from this Hill article by the prominent former Clinton pollster. She's polling higher nationally than Barack Obama did 3 years before he became president in 2008. So the fact that everybody doesn't know who she is, it doesn't mean she's not at this moment primed to be in a very important decision. It is going to be interesting to see whether she opts for running for the U.S. Senate. There's a part of me that said, okay, if you like power and politics and government, being a senator is better than being a member of the House of Representatives. It's far more powerful to be one of 100 than one of 435. There's no doubt about it. But there's also a part of me that thinks that she and her team would say there's never going to be a better opportunity to run for president right now. Also, if for some reason she does win, or she does not win, she loses, she has such fame that there's no doubt in my mind she would be able to make tens of millions of dollars a year running her own media company. We already know she's fabulously good at throwing out zingers, tweets, social media, video, capturing attention at things like the big society Met Ball, Fashion Bowl every year. She's really, really good at capturing attention. And she was and I'm saying this not in any negative way, she was a bartender before getting elected to Congress. She presumably has, and I haven't checked the most recent disclosure, she has very little net worth. So if she were to run for president and it not work out, she is going to have an extraordinarily cushy golden parachute between book deals, podcasts, speaking gigs. Right now, when she speaks, she has to speak for free as an elected official. If she were to be a private citizen, boom, she's going to be making more than $100,000, not per year, not per month, but per 50-minute speech. So I'm not saying she's primarily motivated by financing, but when you add it all together, it's a fairly low risk proposition for her to serve one more term in the House, then go big. She either becomes the most powerful person in the world, becomes president of the United States, or she would position herself to ultimately be one of the richest people in the world. I mean, if you put together a media empire and, be a third of Joe Rogan, and she's still under 40, imagine the lifetime earnings she could have. Absolutely gigantic. So I do take her very seriously. I'm not saying I think she's the best chances for the Democrats to take over the White House, but she certainly has so many of the qualities you need in a successful candidate: great communication skills, great ability to garner attention, great social media skills, great fundraising skills. You add it all up, and she is rightfully considered a top-tier candidate right now. More coming up on a distasteful subject, but it cannot be ignored. Okay, issue 5. And I try to keep these towards the end of the show. I don't really want this show to be seen primarily as a political show. Trump, Epstein, and the conspiracy that won't die. On Monday, President Trump reignited the Epstein firestorm, claiming he never had the privilege of visiting Jeffrey Epstein's island and had once historically turned down an invitation. The comments, reported by the New York Times, Chris Cameron, came amid renewed scrutiny of Trump's past relationship with Epstein and rising anger from his own base over the administration's vague handling of Epstein-related documents. Meanwhile, on the Joe Rogan Experience, Rogan and former CIA officer Mike Baker slammed the Trump's DOJ's narrative around Epstein's death, pointing to missing metadata from prison footage. Rogan called the case, quote, a line in the sand, accusing Trump of gaslighting supporters who believed he'd, quote, drain the swamp and now feel deceived by cover-ups and contradictions. You know, Trump is normally a wildly successful communicator. And by that, I don't mean he's giving speeches in a traditional, formal, skilled way like Ronald Reagan, or an elegant way like Lincoln or Reagan or Clinton. But he is a good communicator in that you know what he stands for. He's clear. He's focused. He gives you a sense of what he thinks is bad in the world and what's good. And spoiler alert, he's the good part in his view. So he is a good communicator most of the time. What is fascinating to a lot of people, not just me, is his communication has been all over the map on this Epstein crisis. It seems to change every single day. We're hearing something a little bit different. Let's just go back in time. I mean, he was really hyping this conspiracy theory that evil cabal running the world was with Jeffrey Epstein and they were all having sex with children. And he was playing that up for a long time. And then more and more people said, well, wait a minute, Jeffrey Epstein says you were best friends. And here are all these pictures with you and him. And here are all these videos with you and him. And now that he's president, he's trying to sort of backtrack and say, oh, nothing to see here, folks. No story. Moving along. He died a long time ago. That must have been when Obama and Biden were in office. Well, no, it actually happened when Trump was in office the first time. So now he's saying he never had the privilege of going to Jeffrey Epstein's island. Now, of course, you could say he's being sarcastic. He's often sarcastic. But with Trump, you never really know. I mean, this is the same guy who enjoyed his privilege of being able to walk in on young girls getting dressed at the Miss Universe, Miss Teen Universe, Miss Teen USA contest. I can just walk in on them in the dressing room when they're getting dressed because I'm the owner. That was a privilege. So when he says he never had the privilege of going to Epstein Island, there sure is a part of it that makes you think, yeah, he thinks it would have been a privilege. His only regret is he didn't get to go. If that is your first thought, you're not alone. We've also heard him change his views a lot on why exactly he broke things off with Epstein, because he doesn't deny that he used to know Epstein and they socialized. But he initially said, oh, I stopped focusing on Epstein. I didn't want to deal with because he was this horrible creep, making it sound like he was taking this moral posture that he knew about Epstein doing these horrible crimes with children. He made it sound like that. And then reports came in, well, no, that wasn't the reason. The reason was they both wanted the same piece of property and they were fighting over buying a piece of property in Palm Beach. And that's what caused Trump to essentially break up with Epstein. Nothing to do with morals or character. It was about greed and money. Now we hear a completely different story. Now the latest story coming out in the last 24 hours is Trump saying that he essentially broke things off with Epstein because Epstein was poaching his employees, and he didn't like that. So that's a plausible reason for not wanting to be friends with someone. Someone's stealing your best employees. But then you scratch a little and you dig a little deeper and you realize, well, wait a minute. Like one employee we know that Epstein took from Trump was this, at the time, girl, Virginia Giuffre, who talked about being passed around like fruit, being forced to have sex with older men who were friends with Epstein and with Epstein, and was essentially put into child prostitution. And unfortunately, this woman killed herself earlier this year. So we know that that's one employee Epstein took from Trump. So is Trump upset that Epstein took an attractive young child away from him? Because did Trump want the child for him? I don't know, but it raises yet more questions. So every single day we're hearing from Trump. There's no story here. By the way, here's my latest story about how I never really knew Epstein, and it's completely different from the story I told yesterday. Meanwhile, all of the MAGA supporters and the Joe Rogans and the right-wing blogosphere, the conservative media establishment, they're fascinated by this story. They say, we want to know everything, in part because they think it will somehow tarnish Bill Clinton and Bill Gates and other establishment liberal Democrats. And yet they all seem to forget that no one is seen as more joined at the hip with Jeffrey Epstein, other than Ghislaine Maxwell, than Donald Trump. So how you can get it all out there, bring it all down without destroying Trump, these things don't seem to be adding up to the people who are most obsessed with this. And it is an article of faith among conservatives, right-wingers, conspiracy theorists, MAGA supporters, that the government has been lying to people about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay, let's assume that's true for a moment. But now we have Trump's very own handpicked people, Kash Patel at the FBI, Pam Bondi at the Attorney General's office, Bill Bongino, and not Bill Bongino, Bill Bongino, Bongino as head of the deputy of the FBI. These are all his personally selected henchmen and henchwomen, loyalists. And so they're all saying, nothing to see here, nothing new. Meanwhile, they're going through every document and finding thousands of references to Trump in the Epstein files. At the same time, essentially saying there are no Epstein files, nothing to see here. So even for the strongest, most devout followers of Donald Trump, nothing is adding up. Now, I'm not saying Trump has to give a message that would appeal to me or maybe to you, or that would strike me as reasonable or plausible. But at some point, on the number one issue that gets to a central defining belief of how the world works, he does have to give some coherent answer to his base. And he's simply not doing that. He's saying something a little bit different every single day. And these dribs and drabs and, getting angry for people bringing it up. It's an old story. Well, it's not an old story. It has become the number one dominant story of his entire presidency. And simply proclaiming it's not interesting doesn't work. Claiming you're going to arrest Barack Obama or give Barack Obama the death penalty isn't going to work. That gets a headline for about 5 minutes. Saying you're going to strip away the citizenship of American citizens who criticize you, like Rosie O'Donnell, isn't going to work. I'd almost forgotten that myself, and that was something Trump was talking about just last week as his way of, as you've seen me do it. Don't look over here. Look over here. Look at what I'm waving here. Look at this fresh meat. Look at this exciting thing. Look at this red. I got to get a red one of these. It's not working for him. And as someone who's not a fan of this administration, it's kind of humorous for those who are his supporters. They've got to be feeling a little bit of panic. So what's the real lesson here to you and me? You got to be, it's fine to be authentic, but you can't lie, and then tell your supporters, whether they're customers of yours, fans, friends, family members, oh no, now I'm telling the truth. And what I said before was a lie, but discount that. It just doesn't work. Can you be successful and lie most of the time? Yes, you can. Case in point, current occupants in DC. But can you really thrive? Can you feel good about yourself? Can you really have long-standing accomplishments that other people will recognize and you'll feel good about? I don't believe you can. That's why I still believe honesty is the best policy. And if you want to get ahead in life, stick to facts. Don't spread conspiracy theories. Because if you live by the conspiracy theory, if you rise by the conspiracy theory, you can fall by the conspiracy theory as well. That's the big problem going on in Washington, D.C. today. I want to thank you for spending time with me today. This is the Communiverse. It's a brand new type of show where we look at the top business, technology, and culture stories of the day, analyzing things through the prism of communication skills, all with the goal of helping you become more successful in your personal life and professional life. Thanks so much. I'll see you tomorrow.